All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Freezin for NFC North Podcast, episode 174, Minnesota Mess, Packer Coaching Shuffle, plus 2026 Super Bowl odds. We will be having others joining soon. Obviously, you can find me on NFL Outdated on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter X. You can also find me on Instagram, NFL Outdated, and you can find me and us on Freezin 4 Pod on TikTok. Lots to get to. And we will be having Dre joining us soon from the Vikings connection. So, get right down to it. Obviously, the Bears are not in the Super Bowl. Kind of stinks. There are no NFC North teams in the Super Bowl, but there are some connections, and we'll kind of get to those as well. But when you look at the entire season, NFC North, lots of positives, and going into 2026, it's going to be interesting to see kind of what teams are in the hunt. This is something I'd love for people to kind of look at, and we're going to talk about this all throughout the show here. So looking at the 2026 season, 2027 Super Bowl odds. So let's go ahead and look at that real quick. So right now, the offseason Packer hype train has already started. All right, so right now, as it stands, the Packers are in the division. They're plus 1,300. They are the favorite in the division to reach the Super Bowl, which I do not understand. Obviously, Micah Parsons, right? Throw some comments in there, but Micah Parsons, Jordan Love has proven he can't come through the clutch. So I do not understand why every offseason the Packers are right there as favorites in the division. They have proven they cannot do it. So they're plus 1,300 right now. The Lions are plus 1,600. I understand. Obviously, the Lions have talent, offensively, defensively, and they've been there before. The Bears, plus 2,700. Now, Caleb Williams has just, come through in the clutch. And so, welcome, Dre. As we kind of get going here, I'm kind of talking about some of these Super Bowl odds for next season division-wise. So as we get started, where can everyone find you?
You can hit me up on X Twitter. It's at Skullman Sports. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, obviously we're going to talk about some other Viking stuff, but Super Bowl week. Obviously we both wish our teams were there, but there's always next year, right? So
right.
What I was just talking about is I do not understand every single year off season the Packer hype train is off the hook. It's just always right there. So right now, as it stands for next year's Super Bowl, the Packers are plus 1,300, Lions plus 1,600, Bears plus 2,700, and obviously your Vikings plus 5,500. So what are your thoughts on some of these odds already coming out for next year's Super Bowl?
I'm not into like odds like that, so I don't fully know how much to take from them or take against them, I guess, in a sense as well, because there's just so much that can happen between now and then, honestly. Injuries, firings, obviously, as we'll get into, signings once we hit free agency, whether or not draft picks play out. Like, there's just way too much to like try to really orchestrate thoughts around and really think that. I mean, I think if anything, the Packers, they definitely have just like historical favoritism, if anything.
Which I don't understand. Like every single year, I get it. There's Micah Parsons. He was injured. They did well, all of that. But like, there's still so many questions wide receiver wise. Obviously, they've got a new defense coordinator. The Lions still have questions with their coaching staff too. So obviously, as a Bears fan, I'm offended by these. I feel like the Bears should at least be up there. The Vikings, the biggest thing is quarterback, right? If you have a quarterback and you have a coach set, then you're good in the National Football League. And I believe the Bears have that in Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. Now, obviously, I can understand why the Vikings are the least favorite within the division to make the Super Bowl because of their coaching issues. And as we were kind of, starting before, you jumped on, it is kind of a Minnesota mess. we're not really sure who's going to be the quarterback. I mean, you have a defensive coordinator that's probably the most influential, and maybe even KOC. The two coaches are probably the most influential the entire NFL on your sideline. So talk about the Kwesi firing, your thoughts and reaction to that, and then even like who is really steering the ship for the Vikings.
I mean, initially I was shocked, like I think a lot of people were. Yeah, obviously Kwesi had his issues. I said this last week as well, like the day before, not even like 12 hours before he actually was let go. That like I didn't think that he was gonna get let go at least this year. Because I didn't think he was that like awful. Like, yeah, people like say his draft picks were great, but he's had 4 years versus like Spielman, who had I think 12 or 9, but somewhere in there. He had a high amount, and so like his success rates were really high, but that's also because he had more time. So I didn't have as much of a big issue with him. So it was definitely surprising when it happened. I don't know how much of like the paternity, like how many of these news stories are true at this point. I don't know what the reason was. Mm-hmm. Frankly, I probably am never ever really going to know the true answer, because you're just going to have coach speak that just says otherwise. And I mean, I guess it is what it is. I hope it's not the most negative things that we've seen. I really hope that, because that's arguably an organizational problem that I really hope doesn't exist. But give the benefit of the doubt that it's not that. Going forward, like I don't know what's going to happen really. Like you have Rob Brzezinski who's there, but I think I saw somebody online that said like he's just basically the same person as Kwesi, but with like just 30 years more experience. So, I mean, like he's great. Don't get me wrong from the financial side, but I don't know how. Like he was a GM at one point, and then I think Spielman, if I remember correctly, Spielman took over from him. So it's not where he wants to be, which just makes me think that essentially the de facto GM at this point in time, at least, is kind of, well, I would say probably a 75% on KOC and 25% on Flores, when you like just who's calling for the offense and defensive side respectively. So I think that's going to be a big thing in this draft, is that they're going to have like direct choices on that. And I've seen some reports that Flores wasn't happy with some of the defensive picks, so he's going to pick up some of that. And that's one of the bigger things that we do need to fix, especially on the secondary side of things. So it's going to be interesting to see. Like, I don't know, like he termed the phrase like competitive rebuild. Arguably, when you have like so many good players on paper, we're arguably always in that. But I think generally speaking, it could be another rebuild year. We'll see what McCarthy plays out, who we have to quote unquote back him up / maybe push him, or maybe even take over for him. I'm not sure what's going to happen there.
I would say what's crazy is you just hearing all these different reports. Obviously, the quarterback situation was unsettled with what Kwesi wanted and what KOC wanted. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you got Sam Darnold now in the Super Bowl. It's just there's so many reports, and I feel like they all, no matter what direction you go, they paint the whole organizational structure of the Vikings in a bad light. And it's really reminiscent as a Bears fan of how the Bears had dealt with things in the past, and a lot in the media, and like, just not really knowing the direction that they want to go. And I think that's, if for those who have listened to my podcast for any amount of time, know that I've actually been a KOC fan. I think he's a great coach, offensive, coach. But organizationally, you would think that they would have, something set. And I think part of it, you have a defensive coach who has proven to be the best in the league. And it sounded like they wanted to throw as much money at him as possible. And that it was his decision. Like if he wouldn't stay if Kwesi was going to stay. I mean, Is that kind of what you're hearing too? That Flores basically said he wouldn't come back if Kwesi was back.
I've seen like those again. It comes down to rumors. Like I don't know like which one's like more true than the other. I do think if anything, I think there's some kind of my conspiracy side is kind of like seeing. I think as well. Obviously, at this point, KOC is like basically this year is his make or break year. We'll see what happens. He's on the hot seat, especially with the amount of control he's going to get. And frankly, from the Wolves' perspectives, if that does happen, I don't want it to, but if it does, it's a really easy signing just to promote Flores. And like and he obviously has a lot of like faith already in the locker room. Yeah, like he obviously has his issues with stuff, but I think in some there may have been some off the record this conspiracy side I can't like confirm or deny like confirm it at all. But it's just like one of those things, that it would be really stupid if they fired KOC and then went with somebody else. Like it just doesn't make logical sense to do that, especially when you have like a coach that has had head coaching experience, wants to be a head coach. He wouldn't even if they did not hire him, he's not going to want to stick around after that. Like he's not going to want to deal with that, especially from a organizational standpoint. So I think like he feels some sense of job security. I mean, I think that there was that one Brown or the quote unquote assistant head coach guy that like was on like a Browns podcast or something that kind of said something that they didn't get along with Flores. I mean, I think Flores is a little bit more just like hard nosed, if anything, which like I think on defense works really well, which honestly was kind of one of his, I think, obviously as shown with Tua and everything, there was a bit of a problem with that in the long scheme of things. But Kwesi had like honestly on the defense side of the ball had like his draft picks were questionable. I mean, I'm not going to try to defend Lewis Cine or Andrew Booth. I didn't mind the Cine pick initially, and then Booth, I had issues because he was injured, like even just from a fan, like quote unquote scouting. So those weren't my favorite picks in the world, but I mean, it's like one of those things that with at least Flores, I trust him at this point to run a defense extremely well, and that's obviously really good coaching. So I don't know how much like issue he had with Kwesi. I really don't. That wasn't the biggest like standout to me.
Well, it's crazy too because I mean, you hear all these things kind of now. It's almost like trying to kind of justify it. You hear like, well, the Kwesi used PFF to decide his what players he was going to pick, or and I absolutely understand trying to use every avenue you can as a leader in the football program to decide what players, but there's just certain things I think you need to learn not to say, right? If you're in that position, like it's not going to be taken well, or there's certain things that like you don't want to say because if things don't go right, then it's going to come out and that's going to be used as an example of like, oh, say they don't know what they're talking about. And I think obviously in the NFL, the proof is in how well the team does. And that's why you look at Brian Flores, like obviously his defense kept you guys in games. So the proof is there. Everybody knows that he's one of the best defensive coordinators. You suggested that maybe he could become the head coach. And that is even I definitely think he is a head coach material, but that's got to be a weird kind of like situation there with KOC too. Like if there's kind of like some like who do you trust? Like if KOC, like does he have like a 2026? If they start out not doing well, maybe the offense doesn't do well, but the defense is still doing well. Like is he kind of looking over his shoulder, being like, all right, this guy's gonna usurp my throne? Like that's some Game of Thrones stuff right there.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And again, that goes back to why it's kind of like an iffy conspiracy theory, like why would that type of thing happen? Because it's just going to put like bad blood into the locker room and then no one's going to want to work well together. So it's like that's kind of obviously the biggest con about like that theory. But again, it's just thinking of it logistically. Like we put Leslie Frazier as like the interim head coach, and he was not like, he was a good coach, don't get me wrong, but he was not on the same level as Flores was, and he didn't have head coaching experience at that point. So it was, and we went with that because he was a locker room like favored guy. And if Flores has that already, had like it's from a business standpoint, from a logistical standpoint, if they fired KOC, and I'm not advocating for that at this point, because he's the most winning head coach. I think in his first like 4 years, and also like one of the highest winning coaches in Viking history. Like, I mean, I don't want him fired. I think he's a great coach. It's just like, yeah, he's on the hot seat. So if they do have a good contingency plan. One thing I will say in regard, going back to the using like PFF to like grade stuff, what's really interesting is that like now they're having commercials, like I think for the Microsoft Copilot with the Buccaneers coaches, like just typing in questions, show me the most leadership like type of thing, and they're advocating for that. So it's like an interesting,
that's hilarious
conundrum of what, just I guess, okay, so Kwesi couldn't do that with PFF, which is obviously player graded, whatever. I'm not saying PFF is the end all be all, but I don't think Copilot is either. It's not or any of these AI things. Yeah, they're great tools and everything, but it's not something that's going to give the well-rounded. And honestly, that one, show me who has the greatest leadership. How the heck is an AI program going to know what player has really great leadership, aside from just like looking at whatever the other players are reviewing of it, which is essentially what PFF is anyway. So it's like one of those things that, yeah, it's not a great thing to say out loud, but then the NFL is kind of promoting it at the same time. So I'm not sure which one, like how bad it is versus how really good it is, because all a marketing ploy, as long as like the NFL gets money, but
it's funny. I think, it's like, don't talk about, it's like, you're in Fight Club, but don't talk about Fight Club. I think like those type of things, like, like use all these things. But, obviously, as fans in media, everybody wants like a coach that's going to be outspoken and provide a lot of sound bites. But, general manager, I mean, that's the one that's kind of, well, even coach, I think sometimes too, but general manager, you want them to basically show that they're in control. And
that's true.
And I think all these things can be maybe said like behind the scenes, right? But like in the media, it's important to have a united front, number one, but really show fans what what you're doing, especially like when you look at franchises that haven't been to the Super Bowl at all, or even in a while. Like I think as a Bears fan, that's kind of when I look at what Ben Johnson's done, and obviously we questioned the GM what he was doing for a while, but now Ben Johnson has come and he's been that steady voice, and in the locker room also he has basically shown that he was a first year coach, but not that he didn't act like it. He told the players what he was going to do, and he's very consistent and all that. And when you have a GM that's I don't know, going back and forth and saying, well, I'm going to use PFF, or like even someone who is just, well, I'm doing analytics, and then not even allowing KOC to make a decision on the quarterback. I mean, I get it, you want a younger quarterback, but as a Vikings fan, I'm sure it has to hurt with Sam Darnold now in the Super Bowl.
It does and it doesn't. Like obviously hindsight is 2020. I think given everything at the time, like we were pretty headstrong, obviously, on McCarthy. And I think honestly, and I've said this before, I think Darnold wanted to be a starter. I mean, you go back, you even look at Daniel Jones, same thing. Like he was savvy enough to like see the Colts situation. He had a chance to beat out Anthony Richardson for a starting job, and he did, and he did that, and Darnold wanted that too. And as much if Darnold was around, sure, and we made it to the Super Bowl, obviously I would love that. But the thing is that like he was on a 1-year contract, looking to re-sign. the evidence showed that, especially last year, like he choked in the big games that really mattered. So are you willing to pay somebody that? I mean, I understand the business side of it of not wanting to pay him. You know, I can like be upset that I wish they had kept him. But then at the same time, if we had kept him, paid him, like all fans would be just like wanting McCarthy. Bring McCarthy onto the field if he starts thinking up. If he did the exact opposite of what he did this year, he would have just started stinking, and then like all the fans are, let's put McCarthy. So then we would be upset the fact that they paid him so much money. At the end of the day, you can't satisfy any fans. So unfortunately, that's how it is. Yeah. This is
the only way to satisfy fans is get to and win the Super Bowl. I mean, that's really, so I think that's hindsight is
within 6 months.
Hindsight is 2020. Obviously, you make decisions as leaders, and obviously, Kwesi was. It's interesting that he basically was broken the news that by some reporters that he was going to be possibly let go. So that's kind of interesting, that maybe obviously all these stories that have come out, there were a lot of rifts there. So obviously it has to hurt with the Vikings fans that now we talked about with Darnold in the Super Bowl. So let's just do some of the connections, the Super Bowl. So as a Viking fan, are you rooting against Darnold or for Darnold?
I will never root for the Patriots. So
okay, so
I think that's my biggest thing. Like, because like I've said this before, like in random episodes. Secondarily, I'm a Bills fan, so Patriots I can't root for. So it's one of those things that I don't like the Patriots. They've won enough, honestly. In my lifetime, if they don't win another one, I'm okay with it. So I'm not like totally rooting for the Seahawks, but I'm definitely not rooting for the Patriots. So I guess go Bad Bunny.
So let's just have some good commercials. But as far as football, obviously there are some NFC North connections for players. Sam Darnold, obviously we talked about. Velus Jones Jr., he's been pretty outspoken. He's actually on the injured list for the Seahawks as a receiver. But he's been pretty outspoken against the Bears when they lost the Rams. So he's kind of become a mini villain in Chicago, trying to stoke a little bit there that he made it, but he really flamed out in Chicago. So he was kind of a disappointment for sure. So Velus can have his fun right now. So I guess, if I'm rooting actually for the Patriots just so Velus Jones can shut up. So get Velus out of here. Cam Akers is actually on the practice squad. So there you go. There's another connection. Obviously, Stephon Diggs is on the Patriots. Garrett Bradbury is as well. I believe he was a Viking, correct?
Yes, he was. Center. Yep.
Yeah. Carlton Davis, Lions. And Josh Dobbs, the Pasternaut, could possibly get – How crazy would that be? The Pasternaut gets a Super Bowl ring.
I would give him all props for that, man. Like I still think like watching him play on the Vikings was some of the most just fun football, because you go into those games with like little to no expectations to really care about, and it's just fun. And like I went to the Falcons game. I was at the one where he like came in like after being hired or signed like on the Thursday prior. It was fun. So like I have nothing against Josh Dobbs getting it. Cam Akers, his story with the Vikings is some of the most hilarious things possible. I always go back to whenever he gets re-signed, it's like the Office clip where it's like snip, snap, because they cut him, sign him, trade him, whatever. It's the funniest thing to me. But
I mean, he's good enough to actually, hang around with a cup of coffee on a team and at least, but obviously not be a star. But so he's good enough to be right there. I mean, and that has to be hard as a pro athlete. I mean, you're not guaranteed a roster spot, but I mean, hey, he's sticking around.
Yeah, it's wild because like coming out of like FSU, he was like really, really good, and then obviously did very well for the first few years in LA, and then he tore his Achilles that first time, and then I think he got in the doghouse with McVay, and then kind of never came out of that. So I like Cam Akers a lot. I think he's a hardworking player. So again, there's a lot of players on this, especially like on the Seahawks, that I'm like, I like them. Diggs, a little bit of a diva, respectively. But
tell you what, yeah. I mean, obviously, being a Bill as well. He was a Viking and a Bill. So
yep. Still say to this day that the Vikings, Diggs for essentially Jefferson, still one of the best trades like that I've ever seen like in my lifetime, where like both teams won out, and so like I'm not upset that he left. So, and honestly, I feel like the overall Bills fans are a little bit more upset that he's making it before like Josh Allen made it. So as a Vikings fan, it sucks, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. And let's go with the coaching connections. Obviously, I went a deep dive here on some of the coaches. Good old Thomas Brown is a tight end passing game coordinator for the Patriots, I believe. Take a look here. And he is last year former Bears interim head coach. So he's always going to be on that list as a Bears head coach for the last few years, for the last few games. He actually did pretty well with Caleb Williams, and the talk is in Chicago that if he had been the coach for the entire season, Caleb Williams maybe would have been a little bit further along. He actually is a little bit more like Ben Johnson, a little bit harder nosed. Possibly a head coach in the future. I believe he did interview with the Cardinals, so he's a solid coach there. Clint Kubiak, the presumptive coach, I believe, is he going to the Raiders?
I think so. Like that's the unofficial. I don't think they've signed the dotted line yet, but I think that's the very high possibility.
Yeah. So he has a connection there. Any thoughts on Clint Kubiak?
Not really. He was the offensive coordinator, I think, like the first year or two, if I remember correctly, with Kirk Cousins.
Yep.
So, I mean, good for him that he's doing well. Honestly, the one that is the latter person, the one that I think, like we talked about him already, like Leslie Frazier. If he's able to win one, I'd be happy with that, because it sucks that like he kind of had like a falling out with the Vikings like toward the end, like he didn't do as well. But as a person, I loved him as a coach. I thought he was just a great personality in the locker room. So if he could win one, I'm more happy. Out of all the coaches, at least he's the one that, like, if anything, I'm rooting for.
So he is on the Seahawks. Just kind of going all down the Seahawks set of coaches here. Andrew Janocko is the quarterbacks coach for the Seahawks. He was actually with the Bears as well. So he's been 13 years as a coach. And let's see, he was with the Bears with Justin Fields. So he helped the development of Justin Fields. He actually helped him a little bit. But hey,
sure.
Yeah. So it's crazy. Interesting. Like, if you kind of do a deep dive on some of these names, Jay Harbaugh is Seahawks special teams coordinator. If the Seahawks win, obviously Leslie Frazier gets a ring. Good old here. Where was it? The name? Former Giants coach is, I believe, on here. Let me see here. I thought I had him. All right. So there's also when I talk about Leslie Frazier, Josh Bynes played for the Lions. That's a possibility. Let's see. All right. So let's go to the Patriots head coach or head coaches. Obviously McDaniels, Thomas Brown, Doug Marrone is on the Patriots head coaching list here. Oh, here we go. Patriots senior defensive assistant is former Giants head coach Ben McAdoo. He could also get a ring here. So you look at some of these coaches, obviously, when you look at coaches, It doesn't matter, if they're head coach or not, it gets counted against their Super Bowl wins. So you look at some of these coaches that have been around a while could actually have a Super Bowl, title on their resume. So, so it's interesting. Some of the NFC North connections, there are connections here. So, any other thoughts on some of those coaches?
I think in general, like one of my favorite, there's like, at least from Vikings perspective, there's like 3 teams that somehow weirdly become the biggest, I guess, team of random ex Vikings players and coaches. It's like the Seahawks, the Bills, and the Jets. For some weird reason, all of our players and coaches somehow gravitate to those 3 teams. I don't know if it's how significant, like relatively, but I just feel like in my lifetime, it's always just like if I follow like people I know, they somehow end up on one of those 3 teams. Like Leslie Frazier went from Vikings, Bills, and now Seahawks. Stephon Diggs went to the Bills and obviously did well there. There's a bunch of other random. Anthony Barr went to the Jets, came back like halfway. Mm-hmm. Josh Dobbs. Like they trap these Josh Dobbs is on the Patriots. Never mind. Ignore that. Clint Kubiak. Like it's such a weird and then Percy Harvin. Same thing. It's weird seeing this, but I feel like those 3 teams just have like just this weird desire to have the Vikings ex players and coaches, and it makes me like them, like those teams a little bit more. Not so much the Jets, but at least the other 2 teams.
Who was the Vikings backup quarterback? Favre got hurt versus the Bears. I'm trying to think who it was. He was actually killed in a car accident, I believe. It escapes me. Someone's listening. Tavares Jackson. Yes, I believe he was a Seahawk.
Another
as
one.
Well.
He was a Seahawk.
Yeah. So, that is an interesting connection. I don't know. I mean, obviously, some people have, connections, rooting interest within the division. I just want to see a good game, right? I think, I think as far as, what team wins, obviously it would be nice to see Velus Jones Jr. lose. Bears fans could kind of one last time kind of pile on him because it was kind of out of nowhere. Like he's not a contributor. So like, okay, stop talking. You're not even a contributor. But, looking at this game, all right, it's interesting with the Seahawks are 4.5-point favorites. Obviously, the Patriots won in a snow game. Are you a believer in Drake May, or are you thinking that maybe the Patriots are going to run away with it, or the Seahawks are going to run away with this?
So I think what you're looking for, I think it's going to be a good game because I don't know which Cinderella is going to hit midnight first with these 2 teams. Because like Darnold, given what I've seen, obviously, like based on last year, like he kind of folded in the big games, and he has struggled against good defenses outside of the Rams game last time. Like I think like that was arguably one of the biggest like outliers to that statement. So if he's able to do that against the Patriots, they could do really well. And I will say the Patriots kind of have had an easy season this year. And Drake May is only a second-year player. So I don't know how good he hasn't had this big game experience. UNC hasn't been in that. I don't even know how close they were to ever a national championship in football. So I don't know. And they both have very good young defenses. And their offense, if the slight advantage that I give to the Seahawks is that JSN is very young. Obviously, Cooper Kupp he's a vet, but he's good. They have a slight advantage on that side of the ball. But I wouldn't say it's like a huge advantage. I'm like at most a 60-40 percentage, like rooting for the Seahawks, but I feel it's more 55-45 type of thing. It's a very close, I think, matchup. I think it's going to be a good game to watch, even if I'm not like rooting really for either team too much more than the other.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at it, obviously, there's a lot of key players. Obviously, everyone goes to the quarterbacks. You know, I mean, JSN has been one of the best receivers. Kenneth Walker, he has been. I mean, he's so shifty. Every time you give him the ball, like you want to watch it. So there are a lot of different players, here that you kind of focus on. Obviously, the Patriots have just a solid defense, and so I wonder if it's going to be a defensive game. You know, Obviously, you got Sam Darnold that could throw picks. Drake May could as well. Drake May showed his legs in
It's
beating
hard.
Broncos. So so I was looking at the Super Bowl MVP odds right now. So Sam Darnold is currently the betting favorite to win the MVP award with odds around plus 110. Drake May is also a strong contender with odds at around plus 230. Other notable players are consideration, obviously JSN, Kenneth Walker. Who do you think is more likely to be the MVP of the Super Bowl?
I mean, MVP, like, for the most part, is like, I mean, you mentioned the top two like people. It's MVQB at this point.
Usually is, yeah.
Yeah. So like obviously the winning team, the winning quarterback gets that, unless like the quarterback like really like throws also 3 interceptions, then they're potentially going to go to a receiver. So like I said, like I'm kind of rooting for the Seahawks, so I would say Darnold in that situation. Take away the quarterback. Obviously JSN, like you said, is very, very good. Walker, like I think, like I've liked Walker for a few years now. I think he is also very good.
So going back to FanDuel odds, Sam Darnold plus 115, Kenneth Walker plus 850, Drake May plus 230, Jackson Smith and Jigba plus 550, Ramondre Stevenson plus 3,000, and Stephon Diggs 4,500. It's interesting doing a little bit further dive here. If you kind of go a little bit further down, Rashid Shaheed is on there. I feel like this, you're right. It's either a quarterback, most valuable quarterback, or like if it's a defensive struggle, then it's like the top defensive player. And then you have like right now DeMarcus Lawrence plus 10,000, Byron Murphy. I feel like this is a game where it's going to be a defensive player that's going to be like get 1 or 2 picks and or sacks or something like that, and maybe just kind of be the standout, and maybe it becomes like one of the defensive players carry, because obviously Sam Darnold had a fantastic NFC championship game, correct?
Yeah, he did.
But the game prior, he had a horrible game, and the defense carried him. And the Seahawks defense has that potential. Patriots defense has that potential as well. So you're looking at it, obviously. If you look at FanDuel or some other site, I'm not really a betting person, but I would look at like players like Tariq Woolen or some of those other players to just be that defensive standout. We talked about Velus Jones Jr. He's not even going to play, and it's crazy. Like he's plus 70,000 for MVP odds. Get out of here. Cam Akers is also plus 70,000 for Super Bowl MVP odds. How about that? Man.
That would make my day, honestly.
This is crazy. Yeah. So when you look at it, obviously, you're going to be watching the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'll be watching. I do think that going to defense, like if the Patriots win, it's defensive. Christian Gonzalez, I think he's a great. Yeah, he's really good. Eamon Worry, like if he's playing, I think I saw that he's injured. Like he injured his ankle. I honestly think like any injuries this week outside of like an ACL injury / maybe concussion, they're playing. So he maybe not be 100%, but if you can like still stand and kind of move, you're still playing. So I think he could, if he's able to play like really well, like Eamon Mori, I think is very, very good. So he could be decent. Like you said, defense can win this game. They both have very young defenses. So I think that it could be a really low scoring game or somehow really high scoring. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, it's crazy. And Monday was the Super Bowl, obviously media day, and I'm sure they get asked a ton of questions. Someone actually asked Patriots head coach if this was a must-win game, and of course, yeah, it's the last game. It's must-win game. All right. So I think everybody. Both teams want to win this game. I think, as players, I'm sure you put so much into it and you have so much riding on this game. Obviously, your legacy, everything changes once you become a Super Bowl winner, right? I think we talk about that as far as, getting the Hall of Fame, are you a Super Bowl winning quarterback? Are you a Super Bowl winning player? I mean, that's all attached to your name. You can't take that away. So that's why I'm hoping the Seahawks lose. So Velus Jones Jr. cannot say that he's a Super Bowl winning player. So yes, I'm gonna continue the Velus Jones Jr. hate over here.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. Yeah, like when you come like the Super Bowl, like you really see like actually how hard it is to get there, especially in these like the new age of football. It's a lot of work has to be put in, and like how like especially this year, I feel like the amount of close games that we've had have just been like even like a couple years ago with the Vikings, they had like a few really close games that were honestly health issues for me. And I mean, this year, especially with the Bears, like there were just like a bunch of games that have just been like really close. And these specific playoffs, I feel have been like some of the best playoffs that we've like seen. They've gone down to the last like few drives just, and they're really close. And so like it shows really how like the season can play out how it is, and then it can just at the end, it gets really tough. But then you don't know what's going to happen in the offseason. Injuries happen, trades, I don't know, you'll
draft, all that stuff.
All that stuff that like you could arguably have like outside of maybe two players go on the roster coming that are different, and somehow that changes you from let's just say for argument's sake, a 10-win team to like a 6-win team. Like that can make a difference, and then you don't get back there for another like 10, 15 years. So
that's why, it's so interesting. Obviously, I'm going to continue the Packer hate. That's what I'm about as well. Because obviously Packer fans talk about how good they are, sustained success, all of that stuff. And I mean they have been in the playoffs and they haven't done much with it. But I feel like anytime they have a player, like Micah Parsons, Jordan Love, it's always like, well, we're going to the Super Bowl. Every single year they have those expectations and continue to fail. That's why I call them failure town. But hey, but when you look at the Packers or any team, their last Super Bowl was 2020 or 2010 season. So like, they've had a sustained success with a quarterback from Favre to Rodgers, and Rodgers did not get back to another Super Bowl. So I mean, you can have a superstar quarterback in a roster, but it's tough to get to the Super Bowl. I mean, it's or continue that success. So that's, all credit to the Chiefs for continuing to be there. Obviously this year they fell off, and it'll be interesting next year to see how that goes as well. Obviously with
and their Mahomes. Roster wasn't like terribly different from last year. They're at least on offense, like they had like not much different. It was like a few like maybe like a few different players, but they're like Kelsey was there. Obviously the receivers, I don't remember who they added this year, but like Worthy, like these players were there last year, and then this year they kind of just Worthy was suspended for the first like 6 games, but no, sorry, Rashee Rice was not
Rashee Rice was
So but like still not like on paper not that different of a team, yet somehow dropped so significantly.
Well, I mean, even you look at the Lions, and I think we talked about this, before the season started. But their coaches were different, and so that makes a difference too. So I mean, obviously there are a lot of moving parts to kind of put together for a Super Bowl, a team to get to Super Bowl, let alone win it. So I think obviously when you have a solid team, you want to keep building on it. And what I love, obviously, a lot of people on Twitter are kind of coming at me. Well, the Bears aren't going to be favorites next year. The Packers are. There's even Kyle Long said that on Twitter, or that the Bears aren't going to be favorites next year. Hey, I love that. I'm glad not being the favorites. And I think the Packer fans and Packers have always been the favorites. I would rather not be the favorite, right? Because then the team's hungry. That obviously everybody wants to have that edge, and I feel like if you're hungry to, continue to grow and build on things, it's not like you're just like, all right, we've arrived, all right, and that's probably it was hard as the as Vikings fans because you had such a good season last year. So what's the next step? We have this young quarterback. All you have to do is plug and play, right? But you found out that it's a little bit different than plug and play. But
Yeah.
I mean, so
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Lions, right? Like you said, like they had a kind of similar team outside their coaches, legitimately went from the top to the bottom. And so that, like, my most optimistic thing about like this season, like we as the Vikings, we had we only went from number 2 to number 3. It's only dropping one spot, not that bad. And like the amount of complaining that like the amount of the fans have had this year about McCarthy, about Kwesi, about everything. Given that, you really think about it. Outside of the Packers tying to the Cowboys, we would have been into the playoffs. That's the wild thing about all this is that like so much stuff can change, and from now you can be hyped up. Like the Lions, obviously, I think if I remember, they were like one of the top, like if not the like favorite to win the season. And then they finished at the end, and is at this time saying you're a favorite, like it means very little. Like, I mean, from the Lions' perspective, like they have a lot to fight for it now. Now they could be very dangerous because they weren't that much of a difference of a team from one year to the other on paper, And I mean, yeah, obviously I'm not going to try to like say that the Vikings are going to be able to like bully back and be the number one. I'm not that confident. I'm not like blind, they obviously have issues, but given that this was like the amount of complaining and like bad year that we had to only like to still finish where we did, that's not terrible, so I feel optimistic, and we didn't drop that badly. We were still like outside of that tie, we were like, if you look at like where we still had a chance to beat if you take away the tie and there was actually a win or a loss in that. Like we had a chance at the up till like at minimally week 17, if I remember correctly, or going into week 18, we had a chance, even though we were realistically out of mathematically. So I think that's not a terrible year given everything, and I think we'll see.
Yeah, I think you as a franchise, and I have been doing this for quite a while. You have to kind of take the silver lining and kind of see. And obviously, as a Bears fan, I would have loved to get to the Super Bowl. There was an opportunity there. I don't know if we would have beaten the Seahawks. I was not confident that we would have beaten the Seahawks, just how our defense looked and also the Seahawks defense looked. But there was an opportunity there. And so to me, I've been saying the Bears were the 2015 Cubs, 2016, a lot of magic happened. So that's possible. But yeah, I think, you have to look at some of the silver linings and just kind of as a fan, because it's tough to get to and win the Super Bowl. So Giant Goofball has had a question, and yeah, there's a lot of different coaching things here. A Bears perspective on Matt Nagy. Good luck with that. Good luck with him as the offensive coordinator. I think obviously he was there with Andy Reid for a while, and Andy Reid, I think, was the genius there. So we'll see. Obviously, he's with Harbaugh, so he's probably going to be the guy. He's got a solid receiver. He's got a solid running back. He's got a solid quarterback. What I don't like about Nagy is he fumbled kind of everything developing quarterbacks. And so like I would worry about him developing Jackson Dart and knowing how to do that overall. I would be worried about that. So I don't know. Do you have thoughts on that, Dre, on Matt Nagy?
I'm not totally sure because I think his development hasn't been like, I guess, the total best when it comes to quarterbacks. I think wasn't he there for when like Mitch Trubisky was there? And
Yep.
I mean, he's a traveling backup,
Yep.
basically at this point. So it's I'm not total, and like I'm not gonna, even though he was in Kansas City, I'm not giving him credit for Mahomes. No, sorry, no.
No.
Yeah, like so I'm not sure. But I mean, he just may be just kind of essentially a yes man to Harborough, I think, like if anything.
What he could be, though, it is interesting. So I'm sure there's hope. Obviously, with the Giants, you have Harbaugh. I mean, he's a leader of men, as they talk about. And some coaches are meant to be one side of the ball. And obviously, Nagy fumbled a lot of things, with the Bears long term. And maybe he's just meant to be an offensive coordinator. You got who's the guy at with the Chiefs, the defensive coordinator. I'm trying to remember his name. Starts with an S. I'll think of it. But you got some of those coordinators that are meant just to be on one side of the ball. Steve Spagnuolo, yes. And I think you got one quarterback or one coach that's meant to be on one side of the ball, and that's that's where they can just focus all their attention and as opposed to trying to be overall, and maybe that's, maybe in the end, maybe that's what Flores, maybe he's not, good at kind of the overall stuff. He's just like focused in. He's just an amazing defensive coordinator. Who knows? Obviously, I think he needs to get his shot eventually to see if he could, be a head coach again. If Nagy gets a head coaching position before some Flores, that's a crime. All right. I think in my mind, I would think Flores would get a head coaching spot before Matt Nagy does. And Matt Nagy, give him offense. Okay. But don't let him be the only one developing your quarterback. All right. He's worried, but neither Mitch nor Fields. Yeah. They haven't developed after. Right. Absolutely.
That is what I was gonna say that too, of like when it comes to Flores. Obviously I want him to succeed. I think the lawsuit versus the NFL is hindering it. Like I think that's the biggest thing. Like even like some of the owners that are very progressive and everything, at the end of the day, the NFL is about money, and like that type of stuff doesn't give good image and all that. And as much as I like the Vikings owner, and there's some owners that I definitely like more than others, at the end of the day, they're all talking to each other and they're going to be trying to do what's best for what they think, and they don't want bad imagery. So putting Flores, there is some hesitance there on that. I was very surprised, even as a Vikings fan, that he was not signed with the Steelers. I thought like having the in with Tomlin, I thought that would have given him the job. I was really surprised that they didn't go with him. As much as I like him, having him around, I want him to succeed. I think he is a great coach, and I think he deserves another chance as a head coach. Having said that, that's a hard sell. And so if Tomlin signed on for him, like he did when they hired him, I think it's like quarterback coach or whatever that assisted position was, I thought like that's an in, like you have an in, you have like the head coach that you're leaving in good graces. Here's a sign off. You should hire this coach. And they didn't go with him. I thought that was the best option for him. I hope that he does get a head coaching job. I'm not sure if it will happen. I'm wrong. Good for him.
Yeah. And maybe he's being smart too. Like we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Maybe some of these coaches are smart as well. They are waiting for the best possible scenario for themselves. They see a team and maybe they see a quarterback situation that's not settled, so they don't want to necessarily go for that one. So that could be, something too. They could be saying no. And obviously, if you're a head coach, first time, second time, Flores, he, in his mind, I think, in the league's mind, if Flores gets another head coaching position and he does not succeed, then he's done, right? So I think if he's going to go, if I'm Brian Flores, I want to look at a position where I know I have either the opportunity to draft my quarterback, a high quarterback, high first round quarterback, or there is a solid one that's in place, because then he's going to be tied to that. And I think head coaches are tied to, if you have a good quarterback, then you get a little bit more leash, right? And for whatever reason, I think, KOC's got a lot of leash because he's done a lot with lesser quarterbacks, so he's gotten a little bit more leash there. So
and Flores, to his development, obviously with all the that issues, honestly, you look at the Raiders, he has the chance to draft. I mean, they're drafting Mendoza at this point, but he has that chance to choose, even if he didn't want Mendoza, right? He could still arguably choose a quarterback that he would want, and he's still not wanting that. And I think that's a good point, but also he has to debate on himself. It's do I feel comfortable developing this rookie quarterback? Maybe he doesn't. And this is nothing against him. It's just he has had an opportunity to develop somebody. It obviously didn't go very well. Yes, he's learned from KOC. That's one of the things that he said is he's learned from him how to be a more offensive-minded coach a little bit more, which is good for him. The thing is just how confident in his ability and himself to be able to just you get thrown into this position. You have to do it right off the bat. Everyone is expecting high. It's a lot of pressure that maybe you don't want to put on yourself.
Well, especially if it's an organization that has continued to be dysfunctional, like the Raiders. I wouldn't want any part of that. There's also one. I feel like we talk about being offensive. There is one thing that's a little bit offensive to me. One last thing here I wanted to talk about. The Bears are not receiving compensatory picks for Falcons GM hire of Ian Cunningham. Obviously, this is news out here. There was, if you have minority hire, you get, 2 picks out of it. And because Matt Ryan is in place above Ian Cunningham, the Bears are not receiving picks. And I think there's a lot of discussion on Chicago radio about this and just how this would be an opportunity for the NFL to really, parade this is being successful. Because obviously this coaching cycle, there is no African-American coaches that received head coaching, options, obviously, positions. And so this would be an opportunity for the NFL to say, hey, we are doing something. So you would think that the NFL that prints money would actually say, okay, we want to have a little bit more good grace with the public and say, hey, we are doing something, positive. And obviously the Bears, are developing, people, giving them an opportunity that maybe wouldn't have had with some of these other owners. And so this was kind of really the NFL doesn't mess up many things, but I feel like this is something the NFL is currently messing up.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree there. The NFL is very reactionary toward things, and I think that they're hoping, if anything, that this goes under the radar a little bit. I think that's how they're looking at it. Because, society as general, they will get really upset about something, forget it for a little while, get upset about it. And even, no matter how righteous the point is, obviously you want diversity and all this. But, every year we go in and out. You kind of see, a few people of color, coaches of color that are, going up for jobs. Nothing comes of it. And then you just move on to the next year, kind of similar thing, but the public's general interest in those things kind of just dies out because they don't feel very hopeful. So, but the NFL doesn't really honestly care too much about it as long as they are showing that they're doing something, even though they're not really.
Yeah, a lot of it is kind of window dressing, and I think that's probably it's going to take some higher up people to really call Roger Goodell and some of the NFL executives on this and owners to say, what are you doing? I mean, obviously you have this program, the Rooney Rule in place, and all these other things in place, like this development. This development of minority coaches, and you have this in place. Why aren't you doing anything? Why aren't you trying to promote it more? This would be a way to promote it. Obviously as a Bears fan, I want to see my team get draft picks, right? But this would be a way to promote, this is what we're doing in NFL. And I just don't see anything negative about giving the Bears picks on this. Obviously, it's kind of circumventing the rule to have, he's the GM, but he doesn't. Matt Ryan's there. Matt Ryan, he said it's a GM position, and so it's kind of going back and forth of like, what is this? Is it an actual GM position? Does he have control of the 53-man roster, or does he not? And so that's going to be interesting to see how it kind of goes on the offseason. But it's going to be a discussion, especially from Bears fans.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. If anything, if it makes you feel any better, Vikings, even though they got a comp pick for the signing of Kirk Cousins, we should have gotten a little bit more on the breaking of the law, like of the what is it?
Oh, yes.
Of talking trade or signing talks before the legal break line.
Oh yeah. Kirk Cousins
should have gotten
called
something.
himself out. Yeah.
He kind of said arguably yes, it happens every year. I'm not trying to say it doesn't. Unofficially, but he kind of called himself out on it and kind of just said, yeah, we talked to him last week, and last week was before the deadline. So
it's arguable that the Falcons could have gotten more out of that as well. So,
yeah.
Well, I definitely appreciate everyone commenting and following. Obviously, we got the Super Bowl coming up, so we'll have post Super Bowl stuff next week. Where can everyone find you as we close out, Dre?
You can find me on Twitter X. It's at Skullman Sports. Thanks for having me on. Even though it's the off season now, it's still fun to talk football.
Absolutely, always. And you can find me on NFL Outdated on YouTube, on Instagram, on X Twitter, and find us on Freezin 4 Pod on TikTok. Once again, this has been the Freezin 4 NFC North Podcast, and we will catch you next week, and we'll see post Super Bowl. Thanks again, everybody, and have a great night.